it's kind of very delicate to associate creativity with mistakes because one small thing that goes wrong, you immediately start obsessing about it and you kind of carry that hurt or remorse along with you. So I feel like it's always a fine balance that you deal with creativity without also letting any small setback affect that creativity and sort of get the bigger picture out there. So how do you see the relationship between being creative and also like learning from mistakes and how do you keep both going together?
I don't think you need to give. I think first of all, I feel everybody needs to chill the F out. You should not take life too seriously about the things you try. Um, and I think in order to you to get there, I think you need to be very content with what you have and not
Right.
satisfied with what you want to achieve. Right.
What's the
So there is a big
difference?
difference. What you have is you have everything you need, right? Like for example, you have
Mm-hmm.
you have a life, you have a family, and you basically like every basics that you need. So be content with what you have, but don't get satisfied with what you have, and
Right.
try to basically aim for what you want. So that is something that should drive you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel, yeah, once you so I think Nawal said this famously, which I think is really on spot, and it's so powerful. He says, have one desire and suffer on that desire, period. So I think what he means by that is basically have one of the things that you really want, or really kind of, you know,
Mm.
uh, dream about, or whatever that things that is actually your ambition, right? Have one
Right.
ambition, and everything that's not going well with that ambition, you can suffer. You can basically take the hit, like you said, uh, get hurt, like, feel bad about, like everything else is immaterial. So
Mm.
say for example, you're launching your event. Say for example, your biggest dream is to like build a business, build a startup, be a founder, right?
Yeah. Mm.
And in that process, you're launching a side project. It failed. You shouldn't necessarily be hurt for that one move, because it's not going
Right.
to actually impact the bigger dream, right?
Right.
So if someone wants to run a marathon, and
Mm.
he or she started like, running, a 5 mile hike, for example, and he or she didn't make it the time he set up. That's not the that's not the end point. So I feel if you try to convert, or try to shift your mindset where your whole focus is on one big dream, whatever it is, right?
Mm.
You will start treating failure completely differently, because
Right.
that's when it becomes experiments, or that's where it becomes lessons.
Right.
And everything will be like, so you'll tend to fail more, because you're not treating yourself as a failure. You give more opportunities to yourself, and which actually
Mm.
eventually makes you become more creative, or makes you become more smart, makes you become more wiser, because you're learning, you're in that machine of doing a thing. Either it's a
Right.
failure or success, you learn something, you kind of do another thing, so you keep on
Right.
moving towards that bigger dream. So I feel that's how I think people should view at it. Have one
Mm.
ambition, don't have multiple. So you can have like, I want to be a millionaire, and I want to build a business, and I have to have like you know a podcast which is successful, and I have to have something. So you can have 10 different dreams, and you can basically like, go towards them,
Right.
because you'll be so distracted. So I think
Mm-hmm.
the best thing to do is have one thing, achieve that. In that process, take those shots, whatever it is, take those actions, and
Mm.
if it is failing, learn from it, because
Right.
you're eventually, you will set yourself to go there. That's the whole point. So I think that's how I think, I view uh, I, for example, last year I launched, I think, 2 3 projects, and everything was a failure. If you describe it, like I launched an AI product called Bluebee, and it got like good wait list and all that. More than 1,600
Right.
people was on the wait list and all that, but it never took off. No, nobody actually tried to like pay, So
Mm,
I
mm,
launched another thing called Next Step, a community of second time founders. Nobody actually took a uh, took it seriously. So
mm.
that's a failure in a way, right? So I think,
Yeah.
but you still have to keep on going. And I launched this thing called GuestLab. And the first, I think, 60 days, I didn't get any signs, But I think after like 2 months or so, we launched MVP and all that, and then we got our first paying customer. It was like, okay.
Right. Yeah.
So you basically have to make a gradual, process of taking shots, learning from it, improving yourself. You make mistakes. I think it's fine. I think,
Right.
without making mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, I think you're not learning a lot.
Mhm.
So you just basically like, convert that mindset or flip the page and say that I'm in the process of going after one big thing. And
Right.
I really don't care about like all the, slight uh, missteps or mistakes or whatever
Mhm.
you want to call. Doesn't matter, right? Because I want my end goal is there. So put your focus there, and everything will be like, you'll be basically you will be chilled out because you don't panic. That's how I think one of the ways to at least
Yeah.
encounter anxiety as well, like kind of, resolve that. Because when you remind yourself that that is the goal,
Yeah.
everything in between is kind of, it's a
Mhm.
process of the journey.